Hollywood Heath Pearce, also known as the Heartbreak Kid, and Charlie Chuckwagon, Morning Footy Davies, who will be joining us here shortly. I think he had to go use the potty. And do we have a great show for you today, everybody? We're talking with Transfer News Golden God Fabrizio Romano, and he's going to discuss all of our U.S. men's national team players and what they're going to do this upcoming summer in the transfer market. Then we're going to talk about the CONCACAF Champions League final between León and LAFC, and there will be some spoiler alerts there if you don't know who actually won that trophy. We'll do a U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal preview as those games kick off in the middle of this week. And, of course, we're going to discuss our U20s losing to the quarterfinals for the fourth consecutive U20 World Cup, and I'm not bitter about it at all. But first, I need to ask Heath, because Chuck is, I don't know where he is, if they saw my team beat Wrexham in the 7v7 tournament, round of 16 this past weekend. Did you see that, Heath? Were you there? Were you watching?
I did. I saw, and I could feel, first of all, like In Soccer We Trust was putting out the tweets basically saying, hey, sending them home. They're heading home. Wrexham's heading home. Because of the work that you did. But yeah, I watched it intently. I was really excited. Yesterday was probably, last 2 days, your team going out, and then LAFC losing and the U20s bowing out was a little bit of a sad weekend overall. But I watched it all though.
Okay. Before we get Chuck's thoughts on the 7v7 tournament overall, because I know he's got some, I think there's a clip producer Alex can roll of me putting the thing on making it to the quarterfinals. Let's roll that clip if we can. I don't know. Maybe he has it. There he is. Hey. I will say that was a really special experience. It was, for me, I got to tap back into being a part of something bigger than myself, leading a group of guys, trying to create a culture of positivity and obviously working together as quickly as you possibly can. And I think that we found that. I ultimately, when we look back, we lost in the quarterfinals to Sneaky Fox, Mike McGee's team, Ramondo's team, Brad Evans' team, Jay DeMerit's team, Kyle Martino's team. They had a whole bunch of guys there.
They had 14 coaches and 36 players.
Exactly. It was incredible. Yeah, we needed some more players in hindsight. We can talk about the tactics and what I would do different for next time. But it was just really cool to be a part of it. And I think the peak was beating Wrexham on Peacock when everybody wanted Wrexham to win. So that was a big thrill, including the referees. But we figured it out. How about you, Chuck? What do you think about that tournament?
I thought it was well done. I mean, in terms of putting this production together and getting quality former pros, former Division I college soccer players, just college soccer players in general, I think the quality was pretty high.
Yeah, it was good.
And everyone took it serious. So when you have that type of enthusiasm on the pitch, you're going to want to watch it because you could tell people cared. I remember seeing a clip of Jermaine absolutely housing a player out of bounds. Was it your team?
No, we didn't play against Dempsey's team. But you're not allowed to tackle. And then became a little bit gray because you are allowed to leave your feet to block a shot. And as you know, those two things can kind of there's a little middle ground there.
Yeah,
right?
Just block the shot first.
Right,
yeah.
Right, exactly. Right.
Who is the dirtiest player of the tournament?
For me personally, it was probably Quincy Amarikwa because he cracked my ribs in that quarterfinal. He was playing for Sneaky Fox. So that wasn't my favorite thing. Actually, battling against Steven Lenhart was funny. That guy's a big boy, and I'm glad Alan Gordon was hurt because I don't know if I could have managed all of those guys at the same time in
Bash
one game.
Brothers. Oh yeah, let's go.
But it was hard to identify a dirty player because the rules were built to not have a bunch of Casemiro.
Yeah, you still had dirty players.
Yeah, they're still out there. I mean, Quincy got a free shot on me there. There was one guy, actually, Lee Trundle, who played up top for Wrexham.
Big old fella, huh?
Dude, I mean, he should be on the World's Strongest Man competition, and he elbowed me in the side of the head 10 seconds in.
Oof.
And then he acted like the sun wasn't he said the sun was in my eyes. And I'm like, okay, buddy. So I don't know. You guys want to talk to Lee Trundle? I have him in my back pocket if you want to talk about him.
Oh, shut him down. He put up 6 or whatever on the women's team, and they thought they were going to cruise their way a little bit deeper. But, I mean, for me on this one, I will say that I think that the barrier of entry for most former players should be playing in the Bowery League. Jimmy, obviously you spent a number of years playing in it. Charlie, I don't know if you played in a couple games in the Bowery League.
In New York City, right? Chinatown. Yeah.
But it is the quick reminder that, a lot of us were just directly post-career playing in this, still fit, healthy, like that sort of thing, or like relatively healthy, I guess, but like fit, right? And still on the younger side. But you quickly realize that a 22-year-old D1 kid that would rather just spend his time in the financial district instead of trying to play in the lower divisions is a good player. And you put 6 of them, and tactically they can make your life really, really hard, right? even
Right,
if you have
right.
1,000 caps, national team caps on your team, or 150 years of MLS experience or pro experience, it makes a big difference. And then when you talk about covering that ground, you add the heat, and it looked hot there at sometimes. It can be a neutralizer, and then the game is built with that the target score to play into the youth and the ability to rotate squads and like go deep and ultimately use the advantage of a goalkeeper at a certain point, which is obviously, Jimmy, where
it was insane. Yeah. I mean, I would definitely approach the tournament a little bit different next time around. And to your point, probably add more younger players. Me and DeMarcus Beasley, we shared a team, and we really thought experience would be the difference maker. And it is in some ways, right, in terms of game management and not getting rattled. I think we put a big emphasis on not getting too emotionally high or low and just trying to stay steady and solve problems. But we needed some younger legs. And Lee Win, they had a team, Zala, which was AJ De La Garza's team. They went down 3-0 in 2 consecutive knockout round games into that target score time, which for everybody that doesn't know, if you're down 3-0, it's whoever scores 4 goals first. So the team that had 3 just needs 1, and the other team needs to score 4 to win. And AJ De La Garza did it twice in the round of 16 of the quarterfinals, and they beat Cesc Fabregas and Como in one of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, they're taking on a professional team, and they did it. What he told me afterwards, I saw Lee at the final yesterday, and AJ, they just didn't put a big emphasis on scoring. Like, if you gave up a goal early, it didn't really matter because you knew you can make it up at the end. And so AJ put out a great tweet yesterday saying, we were the best 3v3 team in 7v7 tournament. Because for those that don't know, in the target score time, you have to take a player off every 5 minutes. So it goes 7v7 to 6v6 to 5v5, 4v4. They would just wait and be really disciplined until it got down to like 3v3 or 4v4. And then they would score a whole bunch of goals and the other team was just spent. And that's how they won. And so that's one way to approach it, So it was really interesting.
Well, Jimmy,
I think the future of the tournament is super bright. And I heard got Bayern Munich potentially, United, Liverpool. These are just the rumors going out there, but that's some big clubs are going to want to jump in next year.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that watching yours, it was literally just the tragedy of getting down to 4v4 and not having possession first.
That's exactly right.
Because they just stretch you, and that field, like, it's not a 5-a-side field.
Dude, that field was so much bigger than I thought. So Charlie can say whatever he wants. Like, I'm going to go, I'm going to win it, and blah blah blah. But if you're not fit, Chuck,
out here dreaming,
you're not doing anything.
Chuck's out here sitting on the sideline, drinking his wine cooler on the weekend, being like, well, if I was there,
yeah, we'd be winning everything.
I would have taken the Bees approach, sitting on the sidelines. Yeah, well, good job.
See, the target,
you would love it. Bees loved it.
Again, the target score is the hardest part, though, right? Because you don't really get rewarded. You have to do it twice, So you win 1-0, you grind it out. The game starts over again.
It really does. I mean, we were up 3-2 on Wrexham going into the target score time, and they got the shadiest penalty of all time. But they make it 3-3, and that's where I think our experience kicked in.
Speaking of Quincy, Jimmy, that handball should have been the game over for you guys. That was the biggest, most blatant handball I have seen. That was a chicken wing. I wasn't even a chicken wing. That was somebody ripping a chicken wing off a chicken. That's how far out it
By
went.
the way, wouldn't that extra time really benefit someone who's good 1v1? Because there's so much space.
Yes. But the thing is, Chuck, in theory, yes. But when you get out there and you've already been playing for 45 minutes and you're in this 1v1 situation, the desperation of the defending is quite something, right? You're like doing everything you can. Like, I don't care if this guy pass. I just want him to pass it. So it's really interesting how you approach it mentally.
It reminds me of Peter Novak. One camp that we had, he made us play 11s, and you had to mark one guy and stay with him the whole wherever he went on the pitch. And Sasha Klesch, and I forget who he had, but he dragged this poor person all around the pitch to the point where the guy was like on his knees, like trying to foul Sasha at all costs.
I mean, that's what it looked like. It's pretty remarkable, and I'm very curious to see how it continues to grow moving forward. But I want to give a shout out to Newtown Pride FC for going on to win the $1 million. Self-funded. They didn't get any other thing, and they did a great job of getting to the final, and they were the deserved winners of the tournament. So
how many people get split that on that?
That's a good question. I think there was 16 players. I think they had. So, but I don't know how. You never know how they're managing that money.
Staff, you might bring in a trainer, like any of those things. You got to seed it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can split that pie. But I don't know. You can follow Newtown Pride on Twitter, and maybe they'll tell you how it's all shaken up. All right. Enough of the 77 talk. We have the man, the myth, the transfer god legend, Fabrizio
Ciao guys. Ciao. Thank you for the warm welcome.
So good to see you as always. I mean, so much inside stuff. I figure you're going to probably tell me that my dad is not my dad at some point with the tagline. Here we go. But
no, don't worry, it's fine.
Conversation for another time. Fabrizio, we want to get into some talk about the U.S. men's national team and players that big summer for our players.
The whole damn team.
The whole damn team.
The whole damn team.
So let's start with Leeds. We have Tyler Adams, we have Brendan Aronson, and we have Weston McKennie. What kind of information do you have on those three gentlemen?
Yeah, for Weston McKennie, it's not a good moment because he has to return to Juventus, and so will be time, I think, to find another club. So the idea is to see Weston McKennie on the market. He had a buy option included into his contract at Leeds, but the reality is that with them being relegated, this buy option will not be activated. So he's returning to Juventus, and then he will be on the market again. At the moment, he's still quiet because Juventus are waiting to understand who's going to be the new director of football, and then they will clarify the negotiations for McKennie. For Tyler Adams, there is some interest in Premier League, something also in Bundesliga, still nothing advanced. I'm sure that something will happen there because he's too good to play in the championship. So many clubs are already exploring this opportunity. And same for Aronson, because some clubs, especially in the Bundesliga, of course, he's coming from the Bundesliga. So some clubs are already exploring this kind of conditions of the deal. There is a crucial point. The manager of Leeds. Leeds will not continue with Sam Allardyce. Leeds will have a new director of football. They will have probably a young manager because they want to look for that kind of coach for next season. And so this is going to be crucial to understand who is going to be the new face of the project and what he's going to say to these players, what kind of conditions they will fix for the deal. So not so easy to say now, but I'm sure that all of them will have different opportunities in the summer.
Well, shifting over to the U20 national team, obviously bowing out in kind of a poor performance against Uruguay, but some good performers in the tournament overall with Cade Cowell, Diego Luna. I know Edelman's been linked. Is there any players within our U20 squad that you're hearing about in terms of potential links to moves abroad?
Many of them. I will keep an eye, especially more than about single players, is about some clubs exploring the possibilities to sign players from the under-20 in the Eredivisie. There is a lot of interest from the Eredivisie in players of the under-20 in the United States because they feel there is a lot of talent, but also the boys are so professional. I think what Ricardo Pepi created there by going on loan to Groningen is something really positive because now the clubs are looking at players from that country. It's very interesting because the young players have the opportunity to actually play, to be part of the starting 11 and not stay on the bench as in other countries. And so I will keep an eye on a Eredivisie club for all these players. At the moment, nothing is advanced because they're obviously waiting for the end of the tournament to attack the situation and to open concrete negotiations. So I don't want to mention something that is not realistic, but from Eredivisie, something is moving. So I would keep an eye on that country for the young American players because the market there is becoming really interesting for American talents.
Yeah, I could definitely see that with Ricardo Pepi and Taylor Booth both being successful there. I want to focus on the attackers, like myself, strikers. What do we got for Christian Pulisic, Timothy Weah, Balogun? Could we see even Gio Reyna? Could we see some movement? Or is there a lot of interest in these players?
Yeah, for Reyna, at the moment is quiet. I'm sure that Borussia Dortmund will try to protect him. They still consider him an important player for the future, so I'm not sure he will be on the move this summer. For all the other players you mentioned, yes, there is a lot of movement because Balogun at the moment is planning to leave Arsenal. There will be a meeting with his agent the next days to discuss the conditions of the deal, but he will probably leave on a permanent transfer. The idea of Balogun is to try a new experience. He doesn't want to be on the bench. They play with just one striker, and they have Nketiah on a long-term contract, and of course, Gabriel Jesus, who is the star of the squad, so he doesn't want to stay on the bench the whole season, and the idea is to look for some opportunity. Leipzig are interested, but he's not the only player they have in the list. Today, they open negotiations for Openda from Lens, so they have some options, but Balogun is one of the players they have in the list. AC Milan is another club really interested in Balogun, so I'm sure there will be conversations, but it's important to understand how much Arsenal want for Balogun, who had a fantastic season on loan. And then I'm sure there will be other opportunities also for the other players, including Pulisic. He's on the market. This is the reality. So Chelsea are prepared to let him go. They know that the player needs to be more consistent. He needs to play. He can't play one game and then for 3 months to stay on the bench. So it's the best solutions for all parties to let Pulisic leave this summer. We heard rumors about Juventus, but again, as I mentioned before, we still don't know who is going to be the director of football at Juventus, and they they have to clarify the Allegri situation, the manager situation. So that is going to be crucial to understand what's next for Pulisic. But it's true that there is interest from Italy. So his agent is exploring some possibility there and could be a good destination, I think. Also, Milan were interested in him 1 year ago when they had negotiations with Chelsea for Rafa Leao. Was an opportunity to include Pulisic as part of the deal, but Chelsea said no. Let's see if they will return. But I think Italy could be the destination for him. And I really hope, because he deserves to play, he needs to play. It's really important for his career.
Yeah, that's good info, Fab. We want to talk about Yunus Musa, who's one of our favorite players here on the show. What's his future with Valencia? Is he going to stay or is he going to make a move? And where do you think his best destination is?
No, I think he's going to leave. This was already planned in January. I can reveal to you that in January, Chelsea were really serious for Musa.
Yeah, they're serious about everybody, though. Let's be honest.
But they wanted Musa. They really wanted Musa. Then Valencia decided to keep the player because they wanted to avoid the relegation. So it was really important to keep Musa. But then they promised him the possibility to leave the club in the summer. This is why I think there is a good possibility for Musa to go. Inter really appreciate him, but he's too expensive at the moment. So I don't see that as an easy option for Musa. I would keep Chelsea again there because they have been always following him and they really rate him highly. So keep an eye on Chelsea again. And then Arsenal, because of course he's starting the Arsenal Academy. He's a player who is really appreciated there. At the moment, it's not something concrete or something advanced, but that kind of player could be interesting for Arsenal. But I think he will be on the move. And I think for Valencia, it's going to be really complicated to keep Musa next season.
And Fabrizio, maybe it's a bit early in the season to know for sure, but is there any interest of MLS players being exported that are kind of fringe national team players, whether that's a Brandon Vasquez or a Jesus Ferreira or other players that are performing well within the league? Is there any interest or any rumors that you're hearing about them potentially being linked to clubs abroad?
Yeah, maybe not American players, but for example, I can mention an Argentine player like Thiago Almada. I will keep an eye on Thiago Almada because, of course, he's a star in MLS and many clubs are following him. It's true that Napoli wanted him. But then what happened? The director of football at Napoli and the manager are prepared to leave the club because Palletti is going to leave, and also the director of football is in negotiations with Juventus. So now we have to understand what kind of domino there will be to see how Napoli will move on Thiago Almada. But their scouting department are still following Thiago Almada, and I will keep an eye on Spanish clubs too. I think he could be one of the players in the move in the summer, for sure. One of the most interesting options on the market because that kind of creative player is always appreciated in Europe, and so Spanish and Italian clubs, including Napoli, for Thiago Almada.
Last question for me is, I see that Ange Postecoglou is possibly going to be signing with Tottenham. He's already talked about Cameron Carter-Vickers being the best center back in Scotland. Is there a possibility that he follows Ange to Tottenham?
That would be nice. Honestly, at this point, they have not discussed transfer targets yet. Today, there was a meeting between Postecoglou and Tottenham to fix the contract. It's going to be a 2-year deal with an option for third season. So everything is agreed. I think it's going to be official. If not today, it's going to be tomorrow, but everything is done. And to your point, that would be nice to see him again in the Premier League with this possibility at Tottenham. But from what I understand, Postecoglou, who has a fantastic relationship with Celtic as a club, with the fans and with all the people at the club, he doesn't want to sign players from Celtic to respect the club. So this is what I feel after speaking to some sources today. I don't see Tottenham attacking Celtic this summer.
All right, Fabrizio Romano, thank you so much for your time. You're an absolute beast, and we absolutely love you.
Top man.
Romano! All right, everybody, we're going to take our first break of In Soccer We Trust. When we come back, we're going to discuss the little CONCACAF Champions League, the US Open Cup, and the U20 World Cup, so do not go anywhere.
Absolutely magisterial here. Artiglieria del campionato brasileiro. Colpisce ancora. Golazo.
All right, everybody, welcome back to In Soccer We Trust. I'm Jimmy alongside Heath and Chuck, and we just got done talking to Mr. Fabrizio Romano. As a reminder, though, make sure you go hang out the Golazo Network. It's a 24/7 soccer-only channel, and it's free. You can find it on Pluto TV, the CBS Sports app, cbssports.com, Paramount Plus, if you want to go find it there as well. It's all happening, and there's some great shows. Our very own Chuck Davies is on Morning Footy, Box to Box, and obviously plenty of coverage of all the leagues.
Heath bought a sweatshirt already. He bought a hoodie. It says Susanna, Nico, Charlie, Alexa.
Chuck asked if I'd buy it, and I said no. I was just being honest with him. You know what I mean? Not till they put Jimmy's name on it. I'm not putting it on there. You know.
Yeah. I should
It
be
must,
like
they have me and Jimmy on the back. You know, it's just
Yeah,
in black.
I
It's
wish-
in black font on a
parentheses,
black shirt.
in
yeah.
parentheses. There's like parentheses. But yeah, absolutely love it. But yeah, make sure you guys head over to the Golasso channel and check it out. A lot of special programming, a lot of fun happening over there. All right, boys, let's get into it. Let's talk about the U20 World Cup. I want to get your reactions to this. U.S. after winning their group. Yeah, we have to.
We bottled it. I'll tell you right now, we absolutely bottled it. And this comes down to the manager, Mikey Veras.
Whoa. We lost 2-0. That's all. I just want to make sure everybody had context.
We lost to Uruguay 2-0. But it comes down to Mikey Veras absolutely going defensive and questioning tactics and getting the player selection wrong. You don't bring in Kevin Paredes and have him on the bench for your knockout game. That's mind-boggling to me.
And Puskás too.
And Puskás. It's you can't bring your top players and have them for your most important game like you're saving them for something. They just left their clubs. It was a late release. You start your best players. And I'm looking at how they played, and I'm just disappointed when it comes down to it.
Okay, let's that aside. I agree with you on that. The second thing I would add is that Uruguay was playing after only 2 days of rest and without their top scorer, and we let them.
We had like 5 or 6 days of rest, by the way, like an unnatural way because of the way the groups went. We played on the first day of that round and then didn't have to play till that round completed, round of 16 completed.
Which is exactly my point. Why Paredes
we were
and Puskás should have been starting. There is no excuse. Absolute. Just I see in the Clint Dempsey is a goat on the YouTube comments. Thank you, Chuck. But I cannot believe we didn't get this right. This basic player selection, forget the tactics, which was also defensive and too pragmatic and scared. Why didn't we go after them? We are a better squad. We have more individual talent, yet we played like, oh, we got to be scared of Uruguay. Yes, you be mindful of how they can hurt us in transitioning, but take it to them. For me, I was pissed off watching the game.
I would also say in this one that obviously, if you watched it, you know that the pitch was horrible, right? And they were skating the entire time. And Uruguay were like, you know what? We're going to punch them once and we're going to scrap. And a player like Diego Luna, for example, was relatively invisible because they just had somebody up his backside the entire time. Every time he got it, kicking him, whacking him. And he wasn't able to ever get into a rhythm and be impactful in other ways. And therefore, we had a false nine not able to ever really do much with it. And then you add that to the fact that we lack that sharpness. And the most complimentary thing people have been saying about this U20 side throughout the tournament, and granted, they weren't really tested up until this point, was their ability to move the ball quickly, play with the rhythm, have some pace, have some confidence, be able to have penetrating passes, those types of things, get one-on-one, get isolated, just have a lot of these different patterns of play and things like that were really good. And in this one, I mean, they struggled to get 5-6 passes together at times. And I'm not going to give them the excuse of a pitch or whatever. I agree with Charlie that it was a little bit of a defense first thing. And, you know, you can fall on the excuse of, team continuity and building all that stuff. You are in the knockout rounds. We have star players or players that are hugely talented that weren't on the field that were available for selection. I'm not talking about who wasn't available. They were available for selection and weren't picked. And it was just, you know, unfortunate little own goal. I thought Gaga Slanina probably could have done more in the end. I know Winder's ball was a little bit whatever, but I'm not going to even put it on that. It still would have ended up 1-0. They didn't score. I don't know
why Winder leaves his feet to try to make that clearance. I
don't know why Justin Shea left his feet.
He shouldn't have left his feet either.
Play.
Really,
and by the way, I will tell you this: if you take it down to just those moments, take the 88 or 89 minutes out of those other moments. You're right. I don't know why Winder leaves his feet there, but the Justin Shea one, if you watched him when he went to ground, the other center backs all slowed down in their runs instead of just bolting all the way back with that pessimistic mentality of like he's going to get past Che and I'm going to have to make the play. And by the time
they react, just in case, right?
Right. Yeah,
as a defender, aren't you supposed to be just in case?
You have to anticipate. Yeah, the fact that they
there was an assumption that he would make the play. Yeah,
agreed. And you could tell that he probably wasn't going to get there either, which speaks to your point. Now, for others that are looking at the sunny side of this, we had more possession. Our XG was actually higher than Uruguay. Listen, I'm not into those types of stats to always solve every problem. And overall in this tournament, up until this point, the U.S. had the best expected goal, or third best overall in the whole tournament, and had the best expected goals against the best team in the whole competition. So they were clearly doing something right on both sides of the ball. But for me, it was just something a little bit different, like that in-game management. Okay, Diego Luna, guess what? Somebody's going to be up your butt the whole game, right? Somebody's going to be on your backside kicking you because they know you have some quality. What are you going to do about it? And it's not always on you. It's the people around you. How are they supporting the play? Like that recognition of that in-game management that we talk about a lot. If you know that your star number 10 is going to have two guys floating around him, that means there's space somewhere else for us to exploit. How quickly can we identify that space? And I thought that this is going to be a big learning experience, not only for the players, if they see it as a learning experience, but also for Mikey Varas, the coach. Because, go ahead.
No, sorry. The thought that came to mind too is, Jimmy, I remember this game, Copa America, when we played against Argentina, and the way that they shifted a 6 over and a fullback to deny any sort of ability for isolation with Justin Mapp or anybody that we had on the wings. Uruguay did that to Cade Cowell the entire time. It just came over and said, we're going to put 2 players on you. So you go left, he's going to go left with you. You go right, you're coming right into me. And there was some tactical, and again, once you get the first goal, it changes everything, right? You can do that with a little more emphasis, knowing that you don't have to go and chase anything or expose yourself. But there was some really good tactics from Uruguay, and Uruguay culturally they know how to scrap. They know how to battle. They know how to fight, right? That's in the mentality of the culture. And it comes back to I don't remember what the name of the cage football they play as youth growing up, but it's something that they teach about being physical. Yeah. Being physical is whatever that cage, whatever it is, like the mini pitches they have there that are in the cages are about physicality. And you learn at a young age. If you listen to the Uruguay players, their stories are all about I grew up playing in these environments where it's physical, and you learn from a young age that someone's going to come sweep their feet out from under you. They were up for that fight from the start, and they got the tactics right, which again can be all the difference in a game like that.
Well, yeah, and they also took advantage of a few mistakes from our team, and that's the difference. So they're fine margins.
Jimmy, I want to bring up one of our usual listeners here, Kai718. He said, are we overrating our players just because we know their names and they play in MLS? And the answer is no. Our team has real talent. We are not overrating them. If you saw the way they played the group stage, you'd say they're coming into their own because they're understanding how to get the best out of each other and how to play as a group, a collective group. Even though they were playing soft opponents for the most part, they still, you still felt that they understood how to get the best out of each other, and they knew the tendencies of one another. Because it starts with the team. You have individuals, but how do you grow that group to play as one? And coming against Uruguay, you have to imagine that it comes down to tactics. What the very basic, the very basic of this game, the basis of this game is getting the player selection right, which that should be without question getting your best players on the pitch, especially players who you've been groveling about not having all these players to get, who the clubs weren't letting them leave. You finally get 2 who were allowed to leave after the last game, and you don't play them. So that's 1. And 2, you saw how Leon did what Leon did to LAFC last night is exactly what Uruguay did to the U.S. and exposing those spaces when you play with a back 3. They saw that Wiley was getting up and down. Hallie didn't have a good game. So you have those 2 spots, and they just absolutely neutralized the U.S.
I think I agree with those sentiments. What I'll add is, and this is what he said before, they weren't tested. They never went down a goal, right? So I don't think you really know what your team is about until you have to suffer. Now you have to solve problems. There's urgency that has to be, okay, Cade Cowell's getting doubled. Cool. Great. The coaches can identify that, but can the players also identify that? Oh, okay. Now this means that there's room for me to make a run into this space to exploit what they're doing. And if you just make that run, Charlie, even if you don't get the ball, you still let the defense know that you're now thinking about it. And now they're going to have to shift. And ultimately, or you hope that gives more time and space to Cade Cowell, because now you're threatening to potentially make that run. But if we're just playing timid and playing in front of the defense the whole time and not being threatening in any way, even if it's a run that doesn't get the ball, we're not really showing that intent to the other team that we're solving those problems. And if Mikey Varas and his staff can't identify it, or if the players can't execute, if they do identify it, this is where we find ourselves. And so this is where we are. And then all the tactics aside, I still think there's an element of fight. We had more rest, and we didn't take advantage of really putting Uruguay underneath it. So it's a little disappointing.
If you looked, it was the back three plus Wiley, McGlynn, Vargas, and Halliday. They were playing as one unit, a block. And the three attackers, Kyle, Luna, and Wolf, were solo. So they were literally there, and there was loads of space in between. So you had no connective tissue to the front three, zero. So you had an Uruguay team that said, we're going to defend, we're going to sit back and give you no space because we've seen what you guys can do in space or in transition. We'll take Kyle away. So if Kyle can't run, what's his game like technically when he has to check to the ball and build the game and pop up into these spots? And you could see if Cade Cowell is not given the line, if he's not played into the channels, there's a big difference. And that's where he struggled in MLS because he needs to grow that part of his game. He has the running down the line like a cheetah. There's no problem. But when it comes to we're taking that away, how do you impact the game? He struggles. And it's the same in MLS. Figuring out ways to still be impactful, checking for the ball, playing 1-2s, dragging people. If they're going to take two to mark you, drag them out of space and tell other players to fill that space.
I wonder too, Heath, Daniel Edelman didn't start. And I thought that was an interesting choice because I feel like he didn't start the first game against Ecuador. We struggled to really generate anything until Jonathan Gomez hit an absolute screamer from 20 out at the very end to win that one. But it looked kind of similar. I mean, yeah, it was solid. We had some possession. We created some opportunities. And then now Edelman then started the next 3 games and we won all those and didn't give up any goals. And now you come into this one and you elect to not start Edelman. I wonder too, that goes back to Charlie's beef with the roster selection, which I agree, Paredes in particular, but I think Edelman might have been a miss as well.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, you get into these. Actually, to take a step back, I think it brings me back to this idea that they were never really tested, and in a way that I think was substantially enough to say, I need to, I know what I have and what I don't have within this team, and so clearly he saw some equality within his squad that clearly wasn't the case when he put them in. Like he saw this ability to make decisions that were wrong. Quite frankly, they're wrong.
You don't need to be tested to know that Kevin Paredes is your best attacking player on this team. You don't need to be tested. The guy plays in the Bundesliga.
I agree. I mean, he got 30 minutes and didn't do anything, though, to be fair.
He should be starting.
I agree. He should be starting, but he did get a chance to come in even as a super sub.
He still
the way he does in the Bundesliga.
He gave me a million more dynamic moves than Owen Wolf did. I could tell you that.
Yeah, that's
in
true.
30 minutes.
That's true. Different. Yeah, I agree. I mean, different positions, but I fully agree in that case. I think the lineup was wrong, but again, still some of it still has to come down. And I agree with Charlie, but some of it still comes down to the players too, just not being. Again, if you watch Uruguay, when they lost the ball, they slowed the game down, and then every attack the U.S. had, like Chuck said, with 3 players up front, Uruguay had 6 back. They always had and again, the game changed as soon as they scored, right? The first goal. And so the U.S. needed to have that plan as to how they're going to go and get that goal or start to pull Uruguay out of those positions to be dangerous. And they couldn't find a single way to be able to, again, XG is better. I understand all that, but that's naturally probably going to be the case when you're a team that's going to sit back after you get your first goal. You're going to not create a ton of opportunities, only in transition. So yeah, it was so disappointing.
Well, Charlie, let's go to this. Let's go to this part of the conversation. Obviously, we're disappointed. It's the 4th consecutive time we've been knocked out in the U20 World Cup quarterfinals. The last 3 have been to South American teams. Which one of these players of this U20 team do you want to see in the Gold Cup roster? If it's 0, that's fine. But I just was kind of curious who you thought.
If of all the players, Diego Luna, and I'll tell you why Diego Luna, because in a lot of scenarios,
because we got to get him out of Salt Lake. Because
that one, but a lot of scenarios, you look at Diego Luna and you say, oh, he's not fast enough, he's not quick enough, he's not going to make the grade. When he's clearly technically gifted and he thinks different than a lot of the typical American players coming through the MLS Academy systems. That's a player who, put in the right environment, will really excel because he's a different type of player. And those are the players that we need to get more reps at the highest level, because I think ideally it just comes down to the speed of play. Once he catches up, I think he's going to be a phenomenal player. So for me, Diego Luna, and to go back on what you said, Heath, with Uruguay playing in the cages, that's how you have to prep this team going into the game. That's why international football is different than league play, MLS play, because it is a grind. I'm going to win no matter what. I'm going to win my individual battle because I'm used to these cage environments where I'm fighting for my life. I'm fighting for food or respect. It's different. And so they were going to slow the game down and make it ugly because they know US have more athletes. They are quicker. They are more athletic. So how do we disjoint them? How do we make it uncomfortable? That's what the US need to play, a little bit more high tempo intensity, and they didn't.
I do like that Diego Luna shout. I'm a #1 fan of Diego Luna, though I think Charlie's starting to compete with me for that. What's interesting is, and I think I fell into this category a little bit, where I would play to the level of my competition, either against or for, right? I got with the national team, and in some ways it felt easier than with my club team because everybody was so good at their job, I could really just focus on mine. So you put Diego Luna into that situation where all of a sudden he's got Pulisic and he's got Balogun and he's got, Weston or Eunice and Tyler behind him. And it's just, maybe that unlocks a little bit more of what he's capable of. But to your point, he's going to have to play a little bit quicker and more consistently to really make that type of impact. I think Gaga Slanina, of course, I want to get him as many reps as possible with the full team. Caleb Wiley, I want to give him a shout. Obviously, we're a little thin on the left side, especially from a defensive standpoint. And I've seen enough of him that I'd like to see him maybe get on the Gold Cup.
He struggled in that Uruguay game.
He did. But I leaving that struggle aside, I really like him. I like his energy. I like his enthusiasm. I know this is kind of the intangibles of it, but obviously he can play. But I like these other little things he's bringing. So I'd like to see a little bit more of him. Josh Winder, I want him to go to Benfica this summer, and I'm very curious to see what he's going to look like in a year. But and then Cade Cal, I think he's got to really showcase that he's the guy for San Jose first. And he's only got, 1 goal this season? He needs to have more influence in and around goal.
Can I just say, P. Morton, I'm not going to get triggered by his comment about me big upping these kids. I think that game against Uruguay doesn't change the value of the quality of our players. It's a single game. If I got judged by a single game, I had some bad ones.
You're still sticking to it though?
Yeah, I still think, in the fact that I still think that these players have a ton of upside. I still think these players are still in the elite group of players at that World Cup. And they showed that, granted, again, against the certain opponents, it's going to take a little bit of credit, the one big opponent. But you know how tournaments go. If Ecuador was a challenge for us, but we got through it, right? Slovakia was a challenge for us, but we got through it. And then you move on to the knockout rounds, it gets harder and harder. I understand that. New Zealand wasn't harder. I'll give you that. But this game was the hardest game. They didn't do it, but it wasn't for a lack of quality from our players. I think it was a lack of a lot of things together that made them bad on that day. But I'm still big on the crop of players that we had in that tournament.
No, it's not so much that you're big on them. It's the fact that you were so big on them that they were going to be pushing for World Cup spots in 3 years.
Well, really quick,
sure. I still stand by that. I mean, we still got 3 years.
Well, when we look back on the 2019 U20 U.S. men's national team World Cup roster that also lost in the quarterfinals to Ecuador, you had CJ Dos Santos in goal, David Ochoa, Brady Scott were our goalkeepers. It's Serginho Dest, Chris Gloucester. We were all pretty high on him. Abubakar Keita, Mark McKenzie, Matthew Reel, Chris Richards as their defenders. Edwin Cerrillo, Chris Durkin, Richie Ledesma, Alex Mendez, Paxton Pomykal.
You guys are hating on this 20 squad.
Brandon Servania, Ayo Akinola, Conrad De La Fuente, Luis's Yuli Linez, Justin Reddix.
Yeah, no
Timo
World
Weah.
Cup guys there.
Timo Weah.
Midfielder stuff.
Yeah, midfielder.
Yeah, but none of those guys.
I wanted to say all those names because not a lot of them. We're not talking about a lot of
midfield is the hardest position to break into. I'd say
not a lot do go. I mean, we know that statistically. That's just the reality of that player pool gets smaller and smaller. Our men's national team quality pool is getting bigger, but yeah, very few are going to break through all the way. I mean, you've got players right now that are starting on our U20s that still aren't getting a sniff with their club teams. Diego Luna or Brandon Craig or others. You can see the talent with them, but a lot of it has to do more than just what we see in a few games. So I agree with that. But this crop is better than that last group. That last group wasn't highly touted, and we're seeing some of those players actually break through, like we had seen before with whether that's Mark McKenzie or Chris Richards or Serginho Dest. There's some 3, 4, 5 guys.
But only two of those names that I named ended up making it onto the 2022 World Cup roster from our U20
Well,
team.
Chris Richards was an injury. We won't count
He
him.
was. That's fair. That could have been 3 then, of course. All right, everybody. We're going to take our second and last break of In Soccer We Trust. We got the CONCACAF Champions League final to discuss. And, of course, we got a little preview of the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinals. So do not go anywhere.
The Portland Thorns fly east for their battle with Orlando Pride. Sunday on CBS Sports Network.
Welcome back to In Soccer We Trust. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Heath Pearce and Charlie Davies. And a lot of engaging conversations so far. But now we got to look forward to the U.S. Open Cup preview. Actually, we probably should continue to go hindsight, then leave the second half of this last break for the preview. So let's do that. Let's talk about the CONCACAF Champions League, fellas, because Charlie alluded to it a little bit earlier. Club Leon came up to L.A. with a 2-1 lead for the second leg of the CONCACAF Champions League final and left with a 1-0 win, which gave them a 3-1 win overall, the first time they've ever won the CONCACAF Champions League. So congratulations to them. But a little disappointing from LAFC, Chuck. Are you?
Yeah, again,
Yeah?
I'm disappointed in Stevie Cherundolo's tactics.
Wow.
You don't
And
like being
also-
down 1-0 and or down 2-1, down a goal, and playing like you were trying to hold on to the 2-1, 7 in the back.
I could not believe that I saw Chiellini on the pitch. I could not believe it. I know what he's done in his past and his experience, but he absolutely was the reason why, because now you're playing with a back 3 and they said, we're going to test your space in behind Palencia, who's getting up and down, and Palacios, who's getting up and down. We're right there, and we're gonna test your center backs in their pace, in particular Long and Chiellini, and they just sat in those spaces. And it was so. I mean, Davila had an incredible first half, and it just felt like, okay, maybe if Balogun finishes that chance within the first 2 minutes of the game, the cross that
He misses. He whiffed
that
it.
Palacios gives, that he whiffs.
Mhm.
But Bogusz over Opoku, I couldn't for the life of me understand that, because Opoku's been one of their best players. And you're at home. Go for the win. It felt like this was a
But they also had
game.
Elia and Kellen Acosta, two
that
holding
too.
defensive minded players. Like
Yeah,
Elia obviously can control the flow, but like that's seven guys before you even get into your attack to have, again, you talk about the red thread between the team that can connect those lines. And Carlos Vela didn't show up either. And granted, they made the game. They kept the game pretty much in front of them the entire time. And just like Uruguay, they were down to fight. They were down to scrap. They were going to kick you anytime you came through.
You had Kellen Acosta and Ilie, just two between the back line and the 3 attackers who were sitting like 3 forwards. You had 2 marking like 4, 5 players.
Yeah,
it was impossible. And I thought, okay, make the change within the first half, because I was really curious to see if Cherundolo would say, just like Deschamps did in the World Cup, at 30 minutes, I can see I got this wrong. Time to make some changes. He waited till half and he made some changes, but not enough. The tactically made the right player selection changes, but it was too late. And I was just disappointed, because we all wanted an MLS side to win this competition, and to see LAFC, how talented they are and deep, to not get it right. I was extremely disappointed.
Well, they got run through in leg 1 in Mexico. They got run through.
Yes,
they gave us
did.
so many chances.
They were lucky. Even they said it. They were so lucky to come out with that 2-1.
To walk out of there with a 2-1. And you could feel that Leon had all the confidence. Like, we're not worried about these guys. All we need to do is get one and be steady and attack the spaces when they present themselves. And it felt like Cherundolo put out a lineup that just matched their formation. Like, that was one of the ways they were going to solve it. Cool. You're going to go 3 in the back, which is actually more of a 5 in the back with excuse me, 2 midfielders and 3 guys up top. Sure, we'll do the same exact thing. And we think that our guys are better than yours. And we're at home. We're going to have the fans, so on and so forth. And it didn't work, to your point, Chuck. And it was a little disappointing, because you want to see them stay kind of true to themselves in those moments. And you also need your biggest players to show up. Wonga, a month ago, 2 months ago, doesn't miss that sitter. He doesn't whiff it completely. Carlos Vela might have been in a different form. He didn't show up. I mean, that's why you pay those guys to show up in the biggest moments, and they didn't show up.
Just to add this too, how do they still have McCarthy as your goalie? McCarthy is great as great as he was in the penalties, and I play with the guy. He's a great kid. But as a starting goalie in the CCL final, you were bound. I know
he made
you have
some
a
great
lot of
saves
depth.
in leg one, to be fair to him.
But it's bound to catch up with you.
Yeah.
It was bound to catch up with you.
Well, Kripo's not back yet, and obviously that's the hardest part. And I feel like it's actually been the Achilles heel of this LAFC team has been they've gone through like 20 goalkeepers in their short history of just trying to figure out who's the one, right? Kripo is really good for this team because he's great with the ball at his feet. He's comfortable. He can make big saves. And then obviously losing him, again, the heroics of the final, I get all that from McCarthy. But again, we're 6 months in. We're almost halfway point of the season. The hard part is, found yourself in the biggest game without, one of your biggest strengths being a goalkeeper, which you need in a game like that. Like you said, Charlie, it's just a matter of time. You can't expect McCarthy has never proven to be that guy that can do that, right?
Never.
Big goalkeeper, which, it's only in retrospect that you get a chance to realize that,
Okay, so let's finish this part of the conversation with Cherundolo's quotes after the game, and then we'll talk about U.S. Open Cup here. He said, we got beat by a very good team. I think if you look at the 180 minutes we played, they deserve to win, so hats off to them and congratulations. They had the right answers over 2 matches, and we came up short. Okay, fair. Then the next thing he said is, in tournaments like this, if you want to consistently compete in finals and win these, you're going to have to rethink your roster rules and regulations. You're at a big disadvantage. There's a little more money on that side of the table, is referencing the Mexican teams, and money in this game buys quality. Steve Cherundolo, quote.
Well, he did say, and he did say when I talked to him some time back that you get punished in Major League Soccer for being the best, right? Because if you want to keep the core of your squad and improve it a little bit, you quickly run out of money. There's mechanisms to build a team, but there are mechanisms to keep a team, but it's really hard when you have people that have overperformed their contracts, plus the players that you brought in to help you win, to improve that. It's really hard to keep that bulk together and add 1 or 2 pieces. And he said to me that this is a league that you get punished for being the best because of parity.
It's time to open it up. If people are paying $500 million to get a franchise like San Diego, then I think it's time to say, all right, from 3 DPs, let's go at least to 5 and open up from 5 to 15. Let's open it up a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. So he also had one more quote, and then Chuck, I want to hear from you on this. With our scheduling and all the competitions this year, we had a lot going on, and we ended up in the final not in our best moment. Having deeper rosters and more quality players in your team will allow you to extend those periods of play, and every MLS team is at a disadvantage there.
Jimmy, same quote from the 7v7s, Chuck. You know what I mean? Same quote from Jimmy. Just like, had I known, gone a little bit deeper. The way the rosters work in the 7v7 just don't allow me to really,
That's
I'm
that
trying
was
to
on
keep
me
100 grand, not take 50 grand. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true. Something to keep in mind moving forward. But yeah, there are some similar themes happening in both competitions. Though I didn't take advantage of some of the roster rules in the way that I think. What's interesting though, Chuck, is that LAFC is a team that spends a lot of money already, right? They are being active. They are trying to.
They pull every lever possible.
Oh yeah, somehow they got Gareth Bale and Chiellini on their team last year.
Thorrington is like,
yeah, he's a mastermind of this. So if they're saying this, we're at a disadvantage. What does that mean for everybody else in the league?
Oof.
I don't know. That's what I would add to that. All right, that's a big conversation. There's a lot to unpack there.
What are you saying if you're playing for RSL?
Yeah, you're like, well, I'd be like, why aren't we playing Diego Luna? That's what.
RSL will spend $4 million. Colorado only spent like $1 million. You know what I mean? Like,
you're looking around the locker room.
Well, because they're saving all their money for Arsenal, the Kroenke family. All right, let's talk U.S. Open Cup preview for the quarterfinals. Want to get some predictions from you guys? There's 2 games on the Golazo channel. It'll be Chicago versus the Houston Dynamo. That'll be Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys tune in for that. We're down to the Elite 8, as it were, and then we have one of the 2 remaining USL teams, and it'll be Birmingham Legion taking on the Phil Neville-less Inter Miami. He just got sacked recently. That game will be on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Obviously, all 8 of these teams are now a couple steps away from winning a trophy and getting an automatic berth to the 2024 CONCACAF Champions League. So there's a lot at stake here. But let's start with another game that isn't on. It's Cincinnati versus the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Cincinnati have been pretty good lately, and Pat Noonan's won this competition a few times with the New England Revolution and the Seattle Sounders. And he knows what it means and what's at stake. It seems like they're taking it pretty serious. And they're one of our favorites, Heath, I think you picked them to win it all as well. Are we all? Where were you on this?
No, Heath picked the Birmingham Legion to win it all.
That's right.
Sure, I was
That's right.
that.
I respect that. But they're taking on the
No.
Riverhounds. Who listen, Pittsburgh have taken down 2 MLS teams so far. And they took down New England in New England 1-0, and they beat the Crew at home in the last round 1-0. So they got to be feeling pretty good about themselves. But it looks like Deekwa, the top scorer in USL, might not be available for them.
The tough one is the Fire Dynamo. Anyone could win that one.
Man,
that one
falling apart recently.
I'm gonna go Galaxy at this point. Galaxy, Fire, and then Cincy. They're winning. They're going for the win at this point. Cincy Legion.
I still have that. I mean, I'm starting to wonder. I mean, the Galaxy remind me of the 2021 season of LAFC, where you look on paper and you're like, dude, okay, today's the day they're going to open the floodgates. And then each game you're like, they're not opening those floodgates. Those floodgates are locked shut. So I'm worried about them, but I continue to wonder if they can break out. But I'm still going to Houston Dynamo and Cincinnati in my final. But I agree with Charlie. I didn't believe in it before. I thought Charlie picked Birmingham just because he's, shout out Jay Heaps and the legacy folks in Charlie's lives. But I could see that being I could see that being one. So Cincinnati, Birmingham, and then I'm saying Galaxy again. Chicago Fire is hard, man, but I'm gonna go with Dynamo.
Well, they played at Bridgeview.
Bridgeview. That's why they're gonna win when they play at Bridgeview. The guys, anybody who travels to Bridgeview is like, get me out of here. Right? I'm not trying to be here. So it's just like when anyone came to play at Gillette Stadium, it's like, I don't want to play on turf. When they come in with that negative perception, it's a wrap. You're going to dominate the game. And typically the Fire do so well at Bridgeview because no one wants to play there.
I'm going Houston in that one. I'm going Houston.
Wow.
Even though they've given up like 9.
I tried to talk you into it.
Yeah, but they've given up like 9. Houston have given up like 9 goals in the last couple of weeks. So they're a little leaky for a team that's supposed to be one of the best defenses.
All right. Well, Chuck's got to get out of here. Apparently, he's got
shout out to anybody who eats pistachios, because I tried to break the shell with my tooth, which I thought is a normal thing. I've done it my whole life. Cracked the hell out of my molar. Half of it cracked off. Got to get it fixed.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
So does the dentist come to your house?
Yeah.
Chuck, or how does that work?
No, he sits in Chuck's barber chair inside of his barber shop in the house. You know what I mean? Chuck's got basically like a modular barber chair that can lean back, and the dentist can come in and do the work as well. By the way, Jimmy, by the end of this year, Chuck's going to run out of excuses why he's got to go. You know what I mean? Like now we're using molars. Like what's next, dude? You know what I mean?
I will say, shout out to Chuck. I feel like your camera's gotten infinitely better. I don't know what's happening there, but your camera looks amazing.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's fantastic. So I can really tell. I can actually see
someone
now
just
that
came in and fixed the camera for me.
Yeah.
Someone said, Alex said, "Isn't that the waiting room?" Yeah, it is. Chuck's sitting in the waiting room of a dentist office right now. We finally figured out what that room is.
Yeah, I gave him my a nice little picture of me.
Charlie Davies, go get that tooth fixed, man. We'll talk to you on Thursday.
Much love. In Soccer We Trust fam. I love y'all. Keep coming hard with them comments.
Hey, you don't get to leave early and have a final thought. Get out of here, man.
Get out of here, dude.
Yeah, you don't get to make an intimate connection with the audience if you're leaving early. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Hey, I know we're getting near the closing thoughts though, Jimmy. But I did want to say, for anybody that didn't watch or pay attention to the Belgian league this weekend.
Oh, unbelievable.
But it went into four teams, right, to wrap it up. Royal Antwerp, where Sammy Vines is. He wasn't in the 18 in this one. You've got Mark McKenzie at Genk. Then you had St. Galois or whatever they were called, Union St. Galois or Galois, whatever it's called. And then you had Club Bruges, and Bruges were out of it, out of the competition. But you had the final 3 teams, right? And so in the 90th minute, Royal Antwerp beat or got the goal to I believe draw with Genk that got them the win the championship. And that was as Union were going into the 90th minute up a goal and gave up 3 goals in stoppage time to lose 3-1 and deny their chances of winning the championship. All they had to do is close that out 1-0. They would have won themselves. They were already in first place. And then when they were behind, Genk just had to hold on. They gave up the goal to Toby Alderweireld, who hit an absolute banger
for the
and
94th minute or something.
Like, dude, it was it was an insane. But like, how sad for 2 teams of the 3, but how great it is it for Royal, who honestly on paper had the best team in the league.
They hadn't won the league in 66 years, and that was Toby Alderweireld's youth team, or like his original club. So he came back to help them have success.
Vincent Janssen. They have a bunch of names that you're like, oh yeah, they got a bunch of Premier League. They got, it's like ex Spurs team.
Well, I didn't actually get to say my U.S. Open Cup.
Oh, sorry.
Stuff.
Let's go back to that. I wanted to say that. Be like,
no, you should.
What's your Open Cup thoughts?
People should go try to find that online so they can see that goal, because I feel like it's being packaged on social media in a way where you can kind of see how everything's unfolding all at once. So, yes, for me, I actually like Houston to get past Chicago. I think the Fire fans are going to be pretty upset with me with regard to that, but I don't know. Benny Olsen, I'm liking what he's doing. If they can obviously tighten it up defensively, as you mentioned, I like Birmingham to get through. Heath. I think that Birmingham's going to get past Inter Miami. I know Javi Morales is taking over in Miami until I think maybe Tata Martino comes in. That's the rumors I'm hearing. We should have probably asked Fabrizio Romano what he thought about Tata and maybe Messi going to Inter Miami, which I don't know. Karim Benzema just got what, 600 million or something to go to Saudi Arabia. That's crazy for 3 years.
Yeah,
that's wild. So I have Cincinnati beating Pittsburgh. So I got Cincinnati Birmingham semifinal, and then I'll say Houston, and then Salt Lake hosts the Galaxy. Well, I had a chance to we got to hear from Chicharito. There's going to be a full interview in Soccer We Trust with Chicharito. It was pretty fun. It was just me and him. Sorry, Heath, you got squeezed out on that one. But
it's okay.
But,
I set up the whole thing anyway, so
okay,
I knew it was going down the pipeline. I wanted you to have a good time.
Well,
with
you had Mason Mount a long time ago. I feel as my
Chicharito only wanted to be in this press day for an hour. And we had him for 90 minutes contractually with PepsiCo, so we made sure that we could use all 90 minutes, baby. You're not leaving early.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
You know what I mean?
Appreciate
all 90. You're staying the whole time, buddy.
All right, so let's hear from Chicharito about his thoughts about the Open Cup in particular, and producer Alex, let's roll that clip.
We have a very tough start. We don't feel the worst, and we don't feel like we already done, or we already gone off every competition. Like I said, we're still on in the 3 competitions that they're going to be in this year. You know, in the MLS, in our conference, we are at 6 points away. It's not that we are 10, 12, 15 points away from playoffs, man. And you know how playoffs are. Then in the cup, we show that we want to win that competition as well. And then when Leagues Cup comes, you know, the price and the benefit of playing against the Mexican teams that are very tough, and it's new. And then as well, the price of going to play a CONCACAF chance, you know, to play CONCACAF Champions spot over there. So, man, I think it's just sticking together and be as calm as you can, you know, because that's about life, man. When everyone is praising you, when you can control your emotions and you don't believe that much noise.
All right, so that was an exclusive interview that Hollywood Heath Pearce set up for us. It'll be only on the YouTube. So if you're listening to this on your podcast platform of choice, you're going to have to head over to our YouTube channel in Soccer We Trust. Hit like and subscribe while you're there, and hear what Chicharito had to say with this full interview with me.
They're 7 points out now. They're 7 points out now.
They're 7.
I think that is a growing number if they don't figure it out. But
yeah,
he is right.
So, wait, did you have RSL or do you have Galaxy?
I think I have Galaxy going through, because I think when I had picked that, I thought that this is again a competition. They can, when they played Seattle, when Galaxy played LAFC, they put out their best 11 and saw it as an opportunity to like continue to improve your squad. And also, you know, Seattle put out their B or C team and LAFC put out their B or C team, and they brought like LA Galaxy used that as like a moment. So I think there's a belief now that they can go and do something. I think I had them in there, but
you know what? You've swayed me. I think the Galaxy have definitely.
Salt Lake's a tough game, though, Jimmy.
It's a tough game. It's
away from home. It's tough.
But they're not playing the Rapids. You know, they're playing a Galaxy team that have that belief, as you say, and they're going to be rolling out their top team. And at this point, I think all the teams were going to roll out their best players. So, yeah, I'll go Galaxy versus Houston. That means 2 away teams on that side, Heath. That's a little tricky, but I think maybe one of those 2 gets in, so we'll be half smart. And then the other side, I think Cincinnati and Birmingham, the 2 home teams, are going to go through. So that's my final 4. Final thoughts, Heath Pearce, before we send everybody on their way. What do you got for us?
Not a whole lot besides, man, just a kind of a depressing weekend, Jimmy. I got to say it again. Just you going out of the tournament when you did. I thought you guys had sneaky.
We got hosed.
You know, but all the people that I don't like, Jimmy, the people that truly bother me went out of the tournament. And I do think for the the TST tournament, it was kind of cool to see the two teams that were probably the lowest on the list of a lot of teams on paper. When you look at like the backgrounds, the players and whatever, make a final and get $1 million. I think there's a little romanticism to that I think not only going to bring the big teams that are going to be, with Chuck's attitude of like, I'm only going if I'm going to win, only to get knocked out in the first round type of thing, to like others that are going to try to build these squads, which is why the basketball tournament's done 8-9 seasons now of this, and how hard it is. Jimmy, I believe one of the guys that you worked with that was managing it, I had spoken to way early on about him wanting to put together a team before you guys linked up. And I think they'd been to the quarterfinals 3 or 4 times of the basketball tournament, but never gone further. Right. But he was like addicted to like doing it more and more and more and loved it. And there's something really cool about that, because it is a winner take all, which means, you go to a quarterfinals, you're not sharing the prize, the pool of there's not a cash pool.
Well, you share in the sadness, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I what I loved about TST again was the romanticism for sure. And I wonder if when the Bayern Munichs jump in, or at the Barcelona, Real Madrids, and when the oil money gets in, let's just cut to the chase. Will there be room for those teams, the underdogs, to actually get in there and have a chance to compete? I hope it doesn't get too big too soon, where you miss out on the type of stories that we learned about Newtown. So
you can't though. Like, there's no way to skip. Like, you can take, Jimmy, you could take 7 top Premier League players just retired and try. I don't know if you'll win it. You might.
Yeah,
you'll have an advantage, but there is just because of the running subs, because of all these things, like, you're ultimately going to play against teams, and because of the gamification of the rules, where it's just not that easy. If you did it that way, put a Man United of like literally a team that retired 1 year and they go straight into this, you still have to beat a team twice. It's not like
No,
if it was normal rules, sure. That's why these things exist, is because it levels the playing field in a lot of ways.
It does.
I think certain teams could have run away with this tournament in standard rules, but that's not the way it goes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think Como was a great example of being up
10
3-0.
tiny goals, by the way, tiny goals.
Yes. I was told they're going to be big goals, and they ended up being the goals that you see for like U10 through U8 through U14 or whatever. And I had a 6'5" goalkeeper on my team, Chris Konopka, who hit his head on the crossbar. He could stand up straight and hit his head on the crossbar. All right, we're going to call it there, though. I want to shout out 90-Minute Baller in the comments, who said he got to meet me and was excited that my team beat Wrexham. So shout out to him and everybody else that supported us throughout that tournament. I can't wait for next year already. So talk about being addicted. I am all in on TST moving forward. We'll see you again on Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for listening to us. And in Soccer We Trust, we appreciate your love and support. So on behalf of producer Des, producer Alex, Charlie Chuck Wagon Davies and his tooth, Hollywood Heath Pearce, I'm Cream Cheese Trash Can Conrad, also known as Jim, saying thank you again. And we'll see you on Thursday. Later.